Let me introduce today's scholar, Professor, Teacher, Dr. NurulAmin, who has been teaching in Islamic College University since 2000 and Master BS, MPhil, MS and PhD level. He got his Master degree in Pakistan study and did his MPhil and PhD from University of Peshawar. यहाँ पे नहीं लगाया, but I will put a comma, AreaStudyCentre. He conducted his master research on Maulana Saifur Rahman. 1855. His MPhil thesis entitled Pak-Suez relation during Zulfikar Ali Bhutto era, 1972 to 77, and his PhD dissertation entitled The Indian Muslim Services to Afghanistan. He has taught various subjects courses including governance and politics and erstwhile tribal areas of Pakistan, history and politics of KPK, Pakistan and its neighbors, Pakistan foreign policy, print, electronic media in Pakistan, revivalist and reformist movement in South Asia, historiography of Pakistan and research methodology. He has to his credit 25 research articles, publications published in various reputed academic research journals at regional and national level. He has also supervised many research scholars at Master, BS, MSc and PhD level. So we are more interested in his topic for today, I think, and that is the Anglo-Afghan Treaties, a way forward. That's the topic for today's discussion, and he has produced a very wonderful aspect of this very topic. I think better Dr. NurulAmin read it instead of me.
Yes.
Okay, so please.
Thank you, Shakisa. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am proud that it is my alma mater and I am here in this training from this chair to this chair almost 23 years. So today I am here and I will present a topic today is Anglo-Afghan Treaties, Accords, Agreements, Memoranda, Conventions, Engagements, Protocols from 1809 to 1930, impacting Pak-Afghan relations, a way forward. The abstract of this research paper, it is under process. The one review is received and the other review is waiting, and it is going to publish in a very reputable research journal. This research article attempts to understand the British imperial policy towards Afghanistan in the early 19th century, beginning with countering rival imperial French influence in neighboring Iran and later expansion of imperialist Tsarist Soviet Russia into Central Asia. A critical analysis of Anglo-Afghan treaties, accords, agreements, memoranda, conventions, engagements, and protocols signed during 1809 to 1930 reveals the research argues that the British took these diplomatic initiatives to protect British position in colonial India and beyond, expand towards north and boosting rival imperial powers, influence in the neighborhood. An unintended consequence has been determination and demarcation of borders of modern state of Afghanistan. Though still vulnerable / questioned, especially in times of stress, lessons to be learned by operatives of the successor state, that is Pakistan, and current Afghan Taliban regime include ensuring security, reaffirming inalienability of sovereignty and territorial integrity of respective successor state. So this is the gist, abstracts of the whole presentation, and we will be skipped in some points and come with the important points. And as I have circulated the list of the agreements and protocols, so these are the two lists. One is Anglo-Afghan, the other is Anglo-Russian. So this article, this research is related to Anglo-Afghan, the one portion, but the portion is missing. So these treaties articles.
Both kinds are in the same paper, but you are discussing the Anglo-Afghan.
Yes, I'm going only to Anglo-Afghan. My focus is only Anglo-Afghan. But the list, 18 treaties are Anglo-Russian and 19 treaties and protocols are Anglo-Afghan. during the 19th and the early 20th century years. So multinational treaties, accords, agreements, memoranda, conventions, and protocols between states, countries comprise important source of international law. Article 38 of the Statute of the International Court of Justice considers mandatory applying treaties, accords, agreements, memoranda, conventions, and protocols, general or particular, when resolving a dispute. All the treaties, accords, agreements, memoranda, conventions, and protocols recognized and ratified by the contesting states may be granted performance over other sources of international law. Agreements between two or more states or other subjects of international law creating or intending to create a relationship can be termed treaties. Such agreements at times may be referred to as convention, protocol, accord, etc. Treaties are embodiment of the unequivocal consent of the parties to the rules laid in. Therefore, it became a tendency to transform customary international law into conventional law, since consent granted and formal can only be implied one. In the beginning of the 19th century, British pursued rival imperial power. France, together with Persia, a threat that could be invade Afghanistan and British Indian positions. Later, 19th century Britain's increased interest in Central Asia can be viewed in terms of rising British alarm at Tsarist Russian Empire expansion into Central Asia. It appears an accession of Afghanistan or expansion beyond northern imperial borders might not have been contesting at the time of Britain. In the beginning of the 19th century, Afghan Durrani Empire, since 1747 to 1818, founded by Ahmad Shah Abdali, extended from Herat to Kashmir and from Balkh to Sindh. This undivided Durrani Empire was ruled by Shah Shuja al-Mulk, younger brother of Shah Zaman. In 1909, first British mission headed by Elphinstone visited Afghan writer Afghan, when the capital Peshawar, Shah Shuja at the time has been position of this undivided empire of Ahmad Shah Abdali. Shah Kamran, son of Shah Mahmud, last representative of the Sidozai in Afghanistan and rival to the throne of Shah Shuja, kept on holding a woodland fort at Herat. By the second decade of the 19th century, political divisions in Afghanistan sharpened. The Barakzai, Muhammadzai, head Kabul, and the Popalzai, Sidozai, ruled Herat. The weaker Popalzai hunted external assistance to counter their powerful eastern rivals, cousins. Hence, they invited both Persian and Tsarist Russia. Interference and mechanization to Afghan land. Since Herat was neither contiguous to British India nor Tsarist Russian dominions, rather separated by a vast Afghan territory. In case of British Empire and Persia, in case of Tsarist Russia, eventually Afghanistan fell under the British Indian Persian under Tsarist Russian sphere of influence. Following the Anglo-Afghan Treaty of 1853, both Afghanistan and Persia had a claim over Herat, concurrently each supported by its imperial ally. Several reasons of Tsarist Russian expansion into Central Asia, formerly it was called Turan, Transylvania, Maurul-Nahar, Turkestan, East of Kazan, these were all used for Central Asia, have been in currency. 19th century British historians term it continuation of the Tsarist Russian traditional policy formulated by Peter the Great. Peter the Great, he ruled over Russia since 1684 up to 1725. And he wrote a will, and that will is very famous. The conquest of India to reach warm waters. More contemporary researchers stress economic factors. Growth of Russian textile industry in the later half of the 19th century, unsuccessful competition of Russian industrial goods and Western markets against superior European products. Russian dependence upon American raw cotton interrupted initially due to hostility with the Britain at the eve of the Crimean War, and later caused by the American Civil War. Emancipation of the Serbs in Russia in 1861, the growth of industry in Russia, search for markets for Russian goods, and the influence of the military class in Russia comprised important reasons of the Russian expansion southwards. To thwart perceived threats from the France, Persia, and Tsarist Russia, the British Empire took various diplomatic initiatives and signed a series of treaties, accords, agreements, memoranda, conventions, and protocols stated below. For Britain, not only they aimed at securing British position in India, but also boosting rival imperial powers' influence from the region. Firstly, a treaty was concluded on 17 June 1809 in Peshawar between Afghan King Shah Shuja and Elphinstone, special envoy of the British Indian government. It primarily aimed at aborting possible joint French-Persian invasion of Afghanistan. The British objective implied in the treaty had been to save British position in India and binding Afghanistan into a defense alliance. The treaty was to protect vulnerability of the British Indian Empire from northwest. This brief treaty has been a solid evidence of successful British diplomacy in the region. Article 1 of this treaty declared Afghanistan an impassable territory for the Persians located in the immediate proximity of Afghanistan, and for the French stationed far off Afghanistan. This treaty provided a base to further friendship treaties to be concluded in the future. Since it stipulated friendship, now I quote, "Friendship and union shall continue forever between these two states, Afghanistan and Britain," unquote. The British considered that through Herat, Persia and French can change their position in India and invade Afghanistan, hence fortified Herat by concluding this treaty. This was the first treaty which signed by the Anglo-Afghan in 1809. But at that time, there was no Russian. The imperial and the colonial power was the Britain and the French. So they were initially with the rivalry powers in the region. Yes, French was in Europe, but British is here. So they were expecting that French will be invaded to British India, and Herat was the vulnerable place. So there was in the control of the influence of the Britishers. So this first treaty, and this was such like a diplomatic win by the Britishers in 1809. Now the second treaty signed 9 June 1839, and this was the first Anglo-Afghan War period. A memorandum was concluded at Kandahar between Major Todd of British Indian government and Yar Muhammad Khan, a minister of Shah Kamran of Herat, to ward off Persian influence in Herat and prevent possible tilt of Shah Kamran towards Persia. By signing memorandum, the British offered Shah Kamran certain concessions in Herat. Article 3, 4, and 5 stipulated that in Herat, both the British and Shah Kamran shall work in each other's conformities. The British rather ensured eliminating any weaknesses on part of the Shah Kamran and Yar Muhammad Khan descendant in Herat. The British tactfully bounded up the minister of Shah Kamran, and Article 3 stipulating the minister shall work in league with the British. This was the second treaty. Now, further explain, British also found it imperative in face of increased Persian influence and coupled with the secret intrigues of some officials of Shah Kamran with Persians, to enter into a defense treaty under the guise of the friendship dealings with Shah Kamran, forestall Persian influence in Kamran's court. On 13 August 1839, Major E.D. Arce told the envoy of Governor General of India and Shah Kamran of Herat signed the Treaty of Friendship and Alliance. A very carefully worded defense treaty in the guise of friendship aimed at preserving British influence in the ports of both Shah Kamran and Shah Shuja. It simultaneously empowered the British to direct foreign relations of Kamran and protect anti-Persian interests of the British. So the diplomatic control by the British Empire, that was another success of the British Empire in British India. The treaty provides evidence of the successful diplomatic superiority of the British. Article 2 of the treaty compelled Shah Kamran subservient to the British diplomatic influence, making him a power on the Persian borders lied to the British. Article 5 of this treaty tactfully persuaded Kamran end slavery and prevent an excuse to neighboring power to invade Herat. Article 6 assigned British a pivotal role in case of dispute between Shah Kamran and Shah Shuja. Article 7 and Article 8 of this treaty allowed British to handle foreign relations of Shah Kamran. So here controlled the foreign relations and the foreign policy by the Britishers of the Afghan government. The official seizure in 1849 of the Sikh Darbar Lahore by the Britishers resulted into falling Peshawar, Kuhat, Banu, Abbottabad, Mardan and Dera Ismail Khan into British official control following the defeat of the Sikhs. So in 1849, the British controlled this territory from Punjab and up to this, and these 5 districts, Kuhat and Abbottabad, and these came under the sovereignty of the Britishers. Initially, the British were not physically here before 1849. Before 1849, Sikhs were ruling in this part of the world, and before Sikhs, the Abdali, they were ruling up to 1818. So now they contact with the Sikh, and now empowered by the Afghan. Amir Dusumat Khan, a weaker descendant of Barakzai ruling Afghan family, occupied the port of Kabul. Now at the Kabul as well, the king and the ruling was changed. A weaker descendant of Barakzai ruling Afghan family occupied the port of Kabul. The British, deserving trans-Indian peace and strengthened Dusumat Khan, concluded on 30th March 1855. Now this is another agreement which signed with the British government and the Kabul government where Amir Dusumat Khan was ruling. Now this treaty, the Treaty of Friendship and Alliance, the catchword of this treaty has been friends of friends and enemy of enemies. These were the catchwords, these are the quote and unquote of this main treaty that says this, friends of friends and enemies of enemies. Like numerous other treaties and memoranda, this treaty too was a defense treaty enabling the British maintain authority over newly occupied territories in northwest of British India. Now these 5 districts, Peshawar, Kuhat, and these were occupied. So now to protect all these areas, so they signed another agreement with Amir Dusumat Khan. 3 articles of this brief and concise treaty solely aimed at acceptance of British territorial control over former Afghan lands by the Afghans. Means this part of the world where the Afghan kingdom was there. So, and the main theme of this treaty was, again I repeat it, acceptance of the British territorial control over former Afghan lands by the Afghan. The Persian refusal to vacate Herat under the Treaty of Persia concluded in England and Persia in 1857 allowed the British official in India. The situation was complicated further following reported Persian intent to interfere in the territory under the control of Amir Dusumat Khan. After Persian design and with the withdrawal of the Persian from Herat, a lengthy agreement was concluded between Amir Dusumat Khan and Sir John Lawrence and Lieutenant Colonel H.B. Edwards, representative of the East India Company. Till 1858, the British controlled by the East India Company. After 1858, it's controlled by the British Parliament. So initially, the East India Company was representing the British Empire and the British colony. So East India Company, the agreement enhanced the British subsidy. The agreement enhanced the British subsidy to Amir Dusumat Khan from 1 lakh per month to effectively meet Amir's military expenditures to face Persians. The agreement comprised 13 articles manifesting the British desire to entice the Amir Dusumat Khan into their hold in case of the possible Persian incursion into Amir's territory. Besides increasing Amir's subsidy, the Article 4 and 5 tactfully limits the use of this subsidy for the military purpose alone. Now look at, not for any other purpose, but this subsidy, this loan, this amount will be used only for the military purposes. Putting British troops at the Amir's disposal provides further evidence of the defense nature of this agreement. The dictum of the friend of friends and enemy of the enemies fully reflects this too. This agreement again, friends of the friend and enemy of the enemy, and enhancement of the protocols are enhancement of the amount. Now another treaty in 1878, during the Second Anglo-Afghan War, the British forces advancing through Kandahar, Puram, and Khyber tribal areas towards Afghanistan occupied districts of Puram, Sibbi, Pashin, Khyber, and Mecheni passes. On 26 May 1879, the Treaty of Gandamuk was concluded between the British envoy Major P.L.N. Kivangri and Amir Muhammad Yaqub and imposed by the British territory, casting Afghans annexation of the districts Puram, Pashin, Sibbi, and Khyber and Mecheni passes. Importance of the Treaty of Gandamuk. Gandamuk is the name of place in Afghanistan. Lay in that it confirmed stronger British position in the region. The Afghan foreign affairs were taken over by the British under Article 3 of this treaty. Under this treaty, the British troops would enter Afghanistan to quell any foreign threat to Afghanistan. The British guard assurance under Article 4 and 5 of the Afghan Amir due honor and respect to the British envoy in Afghanistan. Interestingly, the British began stressing expansion of trade, commerce, and communication links with Afghanistan as evident from Articles 6, 7, and 8 of the treaty. Article 9 seems to be a prelude to the most famous or infamous Durand Agreement 1893. This article allowed British to cede controlled cities of Kandahar and Jalalabad to Afghans. The British admitted temporary seizure of Puram, Pashin, and Sibbi districts. Article 9 of the treaty does allocate no special status to Khyber and Mecheni Pass. Neither commits return of these areas to Afghan government in future. The British paid Amir Yaqub Khan stipend to tune of 0.6 million per month to keep the Amir silent over the important issue of the British occupation of Afghan lands. Now again, the Britishers always feed them, and then they, in the response, they are showed their loyalty to the British government. The British admitted temporary seizure of the Puram, Pashin, and Sibbi districts. Article 9 of the treaty does allocate no special status to Khyber and Mecheni Pass, neither comments return of these areas to Afghan government in future. The British paid Amir Yaqub stipend to turn 0.6 million per month to keep the Amir silent over the important issue of British occupation of Afghan land. The treaty also dispelled the impression that the British had faced another defeat in Afghanistan, as in the first Anglo-Afghan War from 1839 to 42. In fact, wars were not the deciding factor. Only the post-war territories and agreements defined victory or defeat in concrete terms. The contents of this treaty stipulate British victory, not defeat, in the Second Anglo-Afghan War. Similarly, another protocol signed by Colonel Service Redway and Privy Councillor signed the protocol on behalf of the British and Imperial Russian government, respectively at Petersburg on 12 July 1887. Despite British and Russian efforts since 1869, the northwestern frontier of Afghanistan had remained unsettled during the reign of Amir Sher Khan. The Russian advance in 1880s from Caspian to Merv, Armenia, alarmed some senior Russo-Ukrainian British Indian influence. The Russo-Ukrainian resulted in the signing of a protocol to settle the northwestern frontiers of Afghanistan. With Imperial Russia, British Empire and Tsarist Imperial Russia concluded an agreement settling northwest frontier of Afghanistan between Harirud and Axis, which today called Amur River Zone. On Afghan behalf, the British ceded Sarai Turkmen's area of Pajnath, earlier claimed by Afghanistan, to Russians. The Russian Empire accepted Afghan sovereignty over Khamyab, Dukhri, and Amudarya areas. Final protocol for a settlement of the northwest frontier of Afghanistan with Imperial Russia of July 1877 in reality put it held upon further Russian expansion into Central Asian region. Following this protocol, British Indian Empire became less vulnerable from the northwest than presumed previously. Consequently, a buffer between two contending imperial powers, the British and the Imperial Russia, was established. So here we are the bone of the contention of Afghanistan, from the north to the expansion of the Russian, and from the south to the British. The place that was finally, it was declared a buffer zone between the two imperial and colonial power. Now, a very important issue today also discussing the Durand Agreement. Sir Henry Martin Durand, the British Foreign Secretary, visited Kabul in 1893. Primarily, the visit aimed at resolving border dispute between Amir AbdurRahman and Tsarist Russia over the areas situating south and north of river axis. Durand was to reach a casual understanding with Amir AbdurRahman on the question of Anglo-Afghan frontier too. The negotiation between Sir Henry Martin Durand and Amir AbdurRahman led to two agreements signed on November 12, 1893. One agreement was about relinquishing Amir's control over areas located north of upper river axis. Hence, Amir's political and territorial control was to be reduced to the south, to the southern part of the river axis. The second agreement, later termed as Durand Land Agreement, was signed too. The eastern and the southern Afghan frontiers stretching from Wakhan to Persian border with British Indian Empire were demarcated. It is amazing. The British Indian Empire not only determined the eastern and the southern Afghan frontiers with the British India, but also with the Tsarist Imperial Russia. The spheres of influence of not only Amir and the British India, but also of Tsarist Empire were decided. Both Amir and the British India resolving not to interfere into others' sphere of influence. In 1809, the first agreement, the British launched against the Afghans both military and diplomatic offensive, eventually culminated on 12 November 1893 into the signing of the Durand Line Agreement. Now that starts from 1809 and then it is culminated to the 1893. The border was demarcated from the north with the Tsarist Russia, from the south with the British India. Almost all the treaties, agreements and protocols signed between the British and the Afghan rulers prior to Durand Line Agreement emphasized two objectives. Before signing the Durand Line, they were emphasizing the two objectives. The first, the British and Afghan rulers were not to interfere into each other's affairs. Secondly, the Afghan rulers were not to allow any foreign power use Afghanistan as a conduct to attack the British position in the region. So these two were the objectives before the signing of the Durand Line Agreement. Now, the Durand Line Agreement enabled to fulfill both the British objectives. As a result of this treaty, Afghanistan turned into a mere buffer between British India and Imperial Russia. Amir of Afghanistan surrendered territorial claim over Swat, Bajawar, Chatral, Arnave, Pashghal. It is situated in the Chatral in the Nuristan area. Veli, Waziristan and Chaghi later. The British returned Barawal, area of Amir Afghan loss had been performed. British gains were substantial. The agreement tightly bounded with both sides not to interfere into one another's affairs. Keeping in view lust of Afghan rulers, the British doubled stipend to Amir AbdurRahman. Now here, there was 0.6, now here it was increased to, it was almost double, million per month. Seemingly the British appeased AbdurRahman for not to object British takeover of Afghan territories. Now on 26 February 1895, after Durand Line Agreement, giant British and Afghan commissioner defended the Afghan Baloch boundary from Domandeh to the Persian border. Baloch Afghan boundary westward from the Chaman. The Persian border was defined on 13 May 1896. Under Durand Line Agreement of November 13, 1893, a giant Anglo-Afghan Commission demarcated the border line between Afghanistan and British India in accordance with the map mutually agreed upon by the Durand and AbdurRahman. This border map lacked necessary topographical details. Therefore, the commissions during their work faced insurmountable problems. The line was to dissect a single nation. These agreements may be considered annexure to original Durand Line Agreement, full of technical details covering a period of Durand Line 2 years. The content narrates views of both accord and discard of either side on demarcation and explaining further the original agreement. Resultantly, the Durand Line Agreement has been termed the most well-defined frontier agreement in the world. Amazingly, the term state, quoted and unquoted, has been used in November 21, 1894. Before this, the term state was not used. While defining Afghan frontier prior to this, no Anglo-Afghan treaties, agreements, protocols mentioned in term state. State term has been not used before this agreement and all the protocols in the agreements. The term government, the other, are an abstract, vague, not concrete term, sphere of influence. The term is used in the previous agreements, sphere of influence, not use the term government. Was used during the diplomatic discourse. The usage of term state recognized politically the statehood of both British India and Afghanistan and its completion after Durand Line Agreement. Now, another agreement in 1905, Louis William Dane, Foreign Secretary to the Government of India, and Afghan ruler Amir Khan signed the treaty reaffirming all existing British and Afghan agreements concluded in the reign of Amir AbdurRahman, his father. It is not clear why the British needed reaffirmation of the agreements by the Afghan Amir Habibullah Khan, signed by his father. The language of this treaty has been at variance to a formally written diplomatic document. For instance, it claims this treaty. Amir Habibullah Khan said, quote, I also have am acting and will act upon the same agreement and compact, unquote. This is what Amir Habibullah Khan said. Again, I also have acted and acting and will act upon the same agreement and compact, and I will not contravene them in any dealing or any promise, unquote. Amir did not concede all this at his free will. It appears rather he had been compelled to concede this. Interestingly, British Foreign Secretary records, quote, "I confirm the treaties with Amir Abdurrahman and write that they mean the British government, will not act contrary to these agreements and engagement in any way or any time." The language of the British Foreign Office reflects sense in an orderly manner. However, uttering of Amir Abdullah Khan say outcry of a slave. Another agreement, and that is the whenever we are celebrating in 19 August that Afghanistan has got independence. No, Afghanistan got independence, but diplomatically got independence. So this agreement was signed at the result of the Third Anglo-Afghan War, which during the 1919. So on 28 February 1919, following death of Amir Abdullah Khan, and then his son Amir Abdullah Khan was declared as a new Afghan king. So he proclaimed complete independence of Afghanistan, declaring holy war, which is called the jihad, against the British in April 1919. King Amanullah Khan developed Afghan ties with Russian, Turks, and Amirs of Bukhara and Khiva and Muslim Indian revolutionaries. His desire of relation with the British based on equality and complete independence of Afghanistan led to an open war known as the Third Anglo-Afghan War 1919. A peace treaty confirming independence of Afghanistan both internally and externally is signed at Rawalpindi on 8 August 1919 by A.H. Grant, Foreign Secretary of the Government of India and Chief of the Peace Delegation of the British Government, and Ali Ahmad Khan, Commissioner for Home Affairs, Chief of the Peace Delegation of the Afghan Government. The Afghan Government accepts the Indo-Afghan frontier accepted by the late Amir, ostensibly understood by many as acceptance of the Durand Line Agreement. This peace treaty is a live witness to British anger and displeasure at the Afghan. After this treaty, the British government seized all kinds of assistance to Afghanistan, including stipend to Afghan Amir, rather areas were confiscated. The original treaty does not mention terminating British control over the Afghan external affairs. However, annexure to this treaty stipulates officially leaving Afghanistan free and independent both in its internal and external affairs. Ostensibly, last statement of the annexure reads more: this war has cancelled all previous treaties, unusual conclusion. The statement declares Anglo-Afghan Treaty records agreement, memoranda, convention, agreements, protocols signed and prior to 1919, including Durand Line Agreement, if not totally redundant, at least cost effective double over the validity to some Afghan frontier and Durand Line Agreement, therefore became suspect too. The forward-looking young Afghan King Amanullah began efforts to modernize his country soon after the Third Anglo-Afghan War. He tried to mend his differences with British government in India, launching efforts in this direction. Since November 1919, he also contacted Russian socialist government of Vladimir Lenin. Russians welcomed the initiative, actively pursued and signed the Russo-Afghan Treaty 1921. This treaty provided a base for bilateral relations, trade, commerce, and establishment of full-scale diplomatic relations between the two countries, alarming the British hence. Son Henry Dobbs and Sardar Ala Mahmood Beg Tarzi inked an agreement at Kabul on 12 November 1921. The British reaffirmed Afghan independence both internally and externally, Article 1 of this treaty. Both sides reaffirmed accepting the Anglo-Afghan frontier as accepted by the Afghan government, Article number 5 of this treaty. concluded in our opinion on 8 August 1919, presumably during an agreement by some, trade, commerce, and full-scale diplomatic relations were established under the treaty. The treaty simultaneously reflects three different aspects. One, political side, Article 1 and Article 2, reaffirm mutually honoring Anglo-Afghan frontier. British and Afghan governments inserted Article 3 in the treaty, recognizing each other on equal footings. Full-scale diplomatic relations were established between the two states under the Article 4, 5, 6, and 7 and 8. The third dimension, trade and commerce relations, that is Article 8, Article 9, and Article 10, provided for transit trade, a treaty in the post-independence period between Pakistan and Afghanistan. This transit treaty, this transit was allowed in this treaty during the 1921 agreement, in which later on Pakistan re-signed in 1965 the transit trade agreement. Yeah. Then it was revised in 2010. Initially it was 1965, and before this it was signed in 1922.
So the groundwork for the APTA is available in this treaty, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Establishment of postal services between British India and Afghanistan took place under Article 9 of this treaty. Frontier tribes in no way a party to the acceptance of the Anglo-Afghan frontier constantly caused disturbance to the British India. Article 10 of the treaty provided for a procedure to solve tribes-related problems. Through mutual deliberation, the great game in Central Asia came to a tame draw following signing of 1907 Anglo-Russian Convention effectively diminished Russian influence in Afghanistan, though British retained some leverage in the Afghan affairs. The 1921 Anglo-Afghan Treaty carried a defined link with Afghanistan, signing of a treaty in February 1921. With socialist government in Russia, the British so-called, quote and unquote, masters of the statecraft and diplomacy tracing an iota of Russian, rather socialist style inside Afghanistan, responding briskly. The British in November the same year signed this treaty with Afghanistan, and previously under the Montego-Chimichet reforms introduced in 1919 had expressed their intention to remain in India for an indefinite period. Warmer Afghan socialist Russian relations would impede, rather threaten these intentions, that is their Indian position. The Anglo-Afghan Trade Convention of 1923, comprising 5 articles, has been an extension of the trade commerce aspects of the Anglo-Afghan Treaty of November 1921. The convention officially regularized the trade traffic between Afghanistan and British India. This convention had in fact enhanced the importance of the traditional and historical trade links and routes between Afghanistan and Northwest and Balochistan provinces of undivided India. It was made compulsory that the trade traffic between Afghanistan and British India shall follow Peshawar Khyber Turkham, Tal Parchinat Pewar, and Chaman and Jadid routes. Afghanistan transit routes were exempted from custom duty under the conventions. October 1929, King Muhammad Nadir Shah acceded to Afghan throne. The British government desired to reconfirm validity of the Anglo-Afghan Treaty of 1921 and Trade Convention of 1923. It is evident that following change of Afghan rulers, the British Indians sought reconfirmation of Afghanistan, adherence to previously signed Anglo-Afghan treaties, accords, agreements, memoranda, convention, engagement, protocol, including byDrNurulAmin agreement. 4. Time to two governments exchange notes as early as successive Afghan government and reaffirm Afghan frontiers ostensibly byDrNurulAmin in 1905, 1919, and 1921 respectively. In 1930, notes were exchanged again between British government and Afghan minister in London to reaffirm validity of treaty concluded at Kabul on 12th November 1921 and Trade Convention of 1923. The exchange of notes and also reaffirmed the Trade Convention of 1923, enabling the British and Afghan government to continue business and trade ties. Now finally, conclusion. Pakistan, the successor state to British India, claims to inherit all Anglo-Afghan treaties, records, agreements, memoranda, conventions, engagement, protocols, including BYDrNurulAmin agreement, signed by the British with Afghanistan. Ironically, since 1947, Pakistan neither sought reaffirmation of Anglo-Afghan treaties, records, agreement, memorandum, convention, engagement, protocols, including BYDrNurulAmin. Following change of rulers in Afghanistan, non-successful Afghan governments either showed any intention to ratify these treaties, etc. Protocol, including BYDrNurulAmin agreement. It is amazing to mention that Pakistan has similar objectives to date of British India, that is, its positions are not challenged, ensuring not use of one side by rival powers against Pakistan. Pakistan launched and promoted armed resistance and diplomatic offensive successfully when Soviets invaded Afghanistan. However, failed to seeking reaffirmation of the Anglo-Afghan treaties, protocols, etc., including BYDrNurulAmin agreement. Successive change of rulers in Afghanistan warranted reaffirming Anglo-Afghan treaties and protocols, including BYDrNurulAmin agreement. Following promulgation of the 1973 Constitution of Pakistan, unanimously passed 18th Amendment, Constitutional Amendment in 2010, without dissent, that included renaming erstwhile NWP and the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, merger of erstwhile tribal areas FATA into Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in 2018, have unequivocally defined northwestern frontiers of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Pakistan, with the state of Afghanistan. Following Soviet and US invasion of Afghanistan in 1979 and 2001 and their respective withdrawal in 1989 and 2021, various elected or unelected regimes, hostile or friendly to Pakistan, dominated Afghanistan. However, recent takeover of Afghanistan by Pakistan supported Taliban has provided Pakistan an opportunity time to launch diplomatic offensive to seek reaffirmation of the Anglo-Afghan treaties, protocols, including BYDrNurulAmin agreement. It shall effectively deny Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan TTP safe haven on Afghan side and secure Pakistan's territorial integrity position. Pakistan in return shall revoke seeking erstwhile colonial sphere of influence, respect independence of Afghanistan, render assistance in continuity of transit trade, reconstruction, ensure non-interference and peace in Afghanistan. Thank you.